We saw the Zoom65 V3 back at Computex 2024 and now we have the review unit, sporting a screwless design now along with 7 different mounting styles, which is really the biggest selling point of this keyboard. It's really quite an interesting budget-friendly custom board. But in this increasingly crowded segment, can the Zoom65 V3 still stand out? Well, let's find out in this review. Let's start with price first because that has always been the highlight of the Zoom65. For this iteration of the Zoom65, it starts at $169 for the global market. Here in Malaysia, from Revolt Keyboards, which is the Malaysian vendor, it starts at 799 ringgit. At this price point, it's still a relatively affordable keyboard, but compared to the rest of the competition, such as the D75, it's not quite as affordable anymore in comparison. But the Zoom65 V3 does have its own unique features that may be able to justify the price tag depending on what you look for in a keyboard, and we'll talk about that later on in this video. So what are the rest of the specifications of the Zoom65 V3? Well, as mentioned, it has 7 different mounting styles, including the classic top mount, the magnetic levitation mount, which is very unique, but it has its shortcomings, which again we'll talk about later. And for this particular build, we went with the split O-ring mount, which balances sound and typing feel quite well. Besides that, it comes with other features that you have come to expect from the Zoom65, with a hot swap PCB and even a customizable module in the top right corner of this keyboard. For this particular build, we went with a display, but you can just change it to a badge if that's what you want. Oh, it also comes with the aforementioned screwless design, so it's easy to assemble and disassemble thanks to the catch ball mechanism. So let's start with what I like about the Zoom65 V3, starting with its customizability. 7 different mounting styles is really very impressive because I don't think there are a lot of custom keyboards that offer this level of customizability when it comes to the mounting style. This really makes it the ideal keyboard for someone who is new because it lets them explore different mounting styles to find their actual preference. With that in mind, the typing feel of the Zoom65 V3 can really be soft to your liking or stiff to your liking depending on your preference. I personally prefer a soft and bouncier typing experience, which is why I went with the split O-ring mount. And the fact that I can just change it to a stiffer typing feel if I want to by just taking out of top case without the use of any screw really shows the versatility and ease of use of this keyboard. To a certain extent, even the sound profile of the Zoom65 V3 can be customized this way. Different mounting styles will offer different sound profile, and in the case of this split O-ring mount style, it's very nice and poppy, and some would even say marbly. Design-wise, the Zoom65 V3 doesn't look too different from the V2, but there is an option to add a taillight here now, which does give the keyboard a nice flair in my opinion. Build quality of the Zoom65 V3 also remains pretty good, although I am not a big fan of this milky green colorway, which is an coated color. It looks unique, sure, but it's a little bit too glossy for my liking, and it even looks plasticky from a distance, which is not the case. That being said, I do like the fact that the badge is now removable, if I can get it out. So after taking off this badge, which is a little bit difficult, you can see that the wireless dongle is smartly hidden underneath it, which is very nice. That is a good segue to the wireless capability of the Zoom65 V3. You can either connect via Bluetooth or this 2.4 GHz dongle, as well as wired, of course. So those are the good parts of the Zoom65 V3, and let's talk about one of the things that I don't quite like, which is the overall value for money of the Zoom65 V3. While it is still quite affordable with a 799 ringgit starting point, it is a little bit more expensive now compared to the rest of the competition. But that's not exactly a bad thing because this keyboard is now far better than what it was because of the screwless design as well as the 7 different mounting styles. Essentially, you are paying more for a better keyboard now, which is not a bad thing. I'm just putting it here because the value proposition of the keyboard has changed quite a bit since its initial introduction, so yeah. One other thing that I don't quite like about the Zoom65 V3 is the overall polish of the keyboard. Take the magnetic levitation mount that I mentioned previously. While it is very nice and unique, The PCB assembly also has a tendency to hit the case if I type a bit too aggressively because of the different mounting points that are offered for the different mounting styles. Because this keyboard is trying to do everything, it does come with these shortcomings, which is not particularly great in terms of polish, but that is the price we have to pay for the sheer flexibility. So is the Mellatrix Zoom65 V3 worth considering? Well, it's yes, but to a certain extent. I say that because the value proposition of the Zoom65 V3 is not quite as amazing as it was last time. Instead, it is now a little bit more pricey because it can do a lot more things now, and if you like the fact that it can do all of these things, including the 7 different mounting styles and the screwless construction, then yes, the Zoom65 V3 is certainly worth a consideration. So with that in mind, you do have to join the group buy before it ends on 2 July, and for the Malaysian market, the estimated delivery is sometime in November 2024. It's a little bit of a kind of long waiting period, but overall not too bad. As usual, we will leave you guys with a sound test of the Zoom65 V3 to end this video. It comes with a split O-ring mount as mentioned before, a palm plate, as well as the WS Palm Plus switch. So that's our review of the Zoom65 V3. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and always stay tuned for more good stuff to come here on this channel and nextriff.com.